What's up, everybody? I'm Greg. This is Colin. That's Scott. Boys, we're outside the PlayStation booth at GDC, and we just saw Project Morpheus, which wasn't about the Matrix. It was very upsetting. Scott, what do you think of the PlayStation 4's virtual reality headset?
It was very cool. So obviously, after 2 years of messing with Oculus prototypes and seeing, Sony try their hand at it, I was actually most surprised by how comparable the two are. Obviously, Oculus is running off of expensive PC hardware. This is running off of a $400 console. You would expect some sort of disparity, and there are some elements, but overall, there's a lot of parity.
Colin, speaking of that, their parity, you went apples to apples. You played that Eve, the Valkyrie Dio at E3 on the Oculus Rift. You just played it here with the PlayStation Focus. What do you think?
It's more feature complete, I think, on Morpheus, but that's because they had another year to iterate on it. But it's very impressive on both pieces of technology. I'm actually a total believer in VR after playing Valkyrie last year on Oculus. Now, there are a lot of questions, of course, about the viability of VR commercially, but it's a very cool idea, and I really like it. It really is a game changer. It's really one of the most. It's like a paradigm shift for the industry if it works.
Scott, is it going to work?
Judging by the demos that they've shown, it seems like they definitely have the power to kind of back it up. Obviously Sony has a huge legacy of innovation of technology, so they clearly are leveraging that not just in optics but also the sensor technology and the staggering mention of Move and PlayStation High. They're kind of cramming a lot of different cool concepts involved that I think kind of rival Oculus in a lot of ways. But there was a few things that I noticed that weren't quite great. Like there was a lot of motion blur when you look around. Not quite as bad as the original Oculus dev kit, but it's definitely inferior to where Oculus is now with their new dev kit 2, and presumably where they'll be at for the retail model. One thing I really liked though was the comfort. It was actually way more comfortable to wear, at least in my opinion.
That was my thing too. When I put on Oculus, I love the experience too. Sold me on it at E3, but when I put on, I feel like my eyes are right on those lenses, and I have to move around. This felt much more comfortable.
Yeah, and there was some interesting stuff about how you could move around because it uses the camera, it uses LED trackers in the same way the Oculus does. But since it's on the back, you could actually fully turn around. Which, when you look at the dev kit 2 for Oculus, you can't. There's only so far you can go. And I don't mean to keep framing this within the realm of
That's
Oculus.
That's what we know, though, right? This is a bold new frontier, Moriarty.
Yeah. But yeah. Really. Yeah. but no, I think it's I'm really impressed with what they've done with it. I think there are a lot of cool applications for it. There's this issue of these are all just sort of brief tech demo-y concepts. Real full integrated gaming experiences, I think, are the big question.
And are you going to want to wear that for an 8-hour gaming session on a Saturday? That is a question. Yeah. Now, Colin, we all just interviewed Shuhei Yoshida, Dr. Richard Marks. We were talking a little bit about what's going on with this, and they brought us something I thought was interesting, saying that for them, this is like the PlayStation 1, that they see this, 10, 20 years down the line, and then they brought a PlayStation Move up and kind of put it in the same context. The PlayStation Move launched as a controller, people were lukewarm on it maybe, and now it's part of this experience, which people are more excited for. Do you think that this is, I don't know if the rebirth of PlayStation Move is the right thing to say, is it the next big step for Move?
I don't know, maybe, probably not. I mean, I think it's an interesting way to phrase it that they talk about PS1 and how they understood that, this sort of 3D ecosystem of games would work with driving games or, maybe some action games, things like fighting games, but that developers, once it was in the wild, did things that they didn't expect. And I think they expect the same thing with VR. That's a really, accurate and I think astute way of putting it, and they were smart to do that. But PS Move, I think, is pretty much dead. I think they don't have to worry about that, though, because DualShock 4 has a Move light on the front of it and therefore can act kind of as the Move if you wanted to. But, I think they somewhat acknowledge that Move was, not working. Again, astutely put that because it is kind of a 3D thing in a 2D world, for instance. Like you're using a TV in 3D space. That doesn't really make any sense. Maybe it makes more sense in VR where it's full 3D all around you, plus, 3D with the controller. So I don't know if it's going to work or not, but, I think they want PS Move to live again. Sure. They probably have a whole stock in a warehouse somewhere they haven't sold yet.
Well, and it strikes me as different as Move, at least from the way they're talking about it. They're not talking about it as this is an experience that developers will be able to slap onto existing games. In fact, they're saying the opposite. It's this is these experiences will or should be built from the ground up for VR. This isn't going to be was it the PlayStation Move integration in SOCOM or something like that. These are going to be things that are developed and optimized for VR. So,
all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think of Project Morpheus and this whole virtual reality system we're moving into? Let us know in the comments, and make sure you share this video with your friends. And for everything about PlayStation and this here GDC, keep coming back to IGN.